Well, what do we think? The Secret Species pack has had a little bit of time to settle now, and reactions have been largely mixed. On one hand, people praise the new social animations, the new skins, the return of the Spinoraptor, and of course, the huge glow-up that the Ankylodocus has had. On the other hand, the lack of free update, the fairly stale now Stegoceratops, and the reused animations on, say, the Spinoraptor have been a cause for concern. It's safe to say that in terms of sheer content, this is by far the smallest update Evolution 2 has ever had. But what does that mean for the future of the game? What's coming next for Evolution 2? Let's take a look. As far as I see it, there's 4 main reasons the Secret Species pack could be as limited as it is, and by that I really mean the lack of free update, which every other pack has had so far, and the reuse of 2 existing models, even though there are new animations, texture work, etc. These are the 4 options as far as I see it. Option 1, Evolution 2 is winding down. The crew working on the game is getting smaller and smaller, and therefore less capable of putting out the expansive updates we've come accustomed to from these DLCs and the free updates. That doesn't mean it's the end, simply that in the future if there is more DLC, it'll be of this kind of level and quantity of content rather than how it was in the past. Option 2, this was an energy saving update. Now it's almost certain that the Evolution 2 team is substantially smaller than it was before, and that's why we've only had dinosaur packs and not map/story DLCs for quite a few updates now. It's been a long time. Frontier have moved people onto other games. But I've held out now some naive hope for a while that we're getting these smaller packs because they're using some resources on one big final expansion, the same way Return to Jurassic Park was the big finale for Evolution 1. Option 3. This is the end, and the low content is resemblant of one last push just to make a little bit of money basically. We can kind of strike this one off. We've known for a long time now that there were 10 paid DLCs planned thanks to files that have been found. Everyone kind of forgot about that, but it wasn't new information this week. We're kind of expecting at minimum 1 more DLC to come before the game bows out. Maybe more, but at least 1. That said, finding them in the files I don't think is a guarantee we're getting another DLC, it's just very, very likely. Option 4, redundancies had a big effect on this pack. Timeline wise, this makes a lot of sense. It was back in December where Frontier unfortunately laid off a ton of very talented people, and there's a decent chance that a lot of the people who would have been working on these DLCs will let go. Whilst the Secret Species pack was likely already in pre-production by this point, it would have been the main focus from approximately December onwards, because that's just after the last pack came out. So I can't imagine a world where these mass redundancies didn't have a big effect and it became a just get this one over the line sort of situation. In that case, I would expect them to bounce back a little bit with the next update. So, is this the beginning of the end for Evolution 2? Are they ramping up to something bigger, or is normal service going to resume? The next DLC is really going to tell us absolutely everything, and I'm also crossing my fingers for some hint of information in the Frontier Unlocked at the end of this month. My main hope for Evolution 2 this time around is simply that we're told when the game will no longer get support, just so we don't sit in limbo for months and months on end. Now, if you'd asked me a few months ago which of these is the most likely options, I'd have suggested we're ramping up to something bigger. I've held out a naive hope for that for a long time. Spare some resources for the 10th DLC, one big final Return to Jurassic Park style update to spur sales and solidify future sales of the game as well, even when updates end. RTJP added so much to the game that people were looking for, and there's definitely room for similar improvements in Evolution 2, with things like kelp for the lagoon, walking pterosaurs, and of course, the addition of Microceratus. Now I know Microceratus has become a little bit of a meme at this point because we never bloody shut up about it, but it is conspicuous in its absence, and even if we didn't already know there was another DLC coming, I would bet there would be, simply because Micro hasn't made it into the game yet. I just don't see a world where Evolution 2 ends support without this single canonical dinosaur not making it across. But I'm an optimist, what can I say? I digress. I said that would be the case if you asked me a few months ago, but as we've talked about a lot lately, there's a change in focus happening at Frontier. They're doubling down entirely on the creative management sim genre. That's games like Planet Zoo, Planet Coaster, and of course, Jurassic World Evolution. And they plan to release one a year for the foreseeable future. Expect a lot more Planet games and a lot less Age of Sigmar, basically. Now, I'm quietly confident on the chances of not necessarily a Jurassic World Evolution 3, but instead a newly titled park sim in the Jurassic universe, riffing off whatever the next film in the series is going to eventually be called. It just makes a little bit too much sense to me, considering Frontier has all these assets, both games have sold really well for Frontier and therefore Universal, and they continue to sell well long after release. But such a game, if it exists, is inevitably quite a ways away, and in the meantime, Planet Zoo and Jurassic World Evolution 2 continue to be Frontier's main source of revenue based on their own charts at the very least. It just doesn't make sense to me that they'd kill those off when there's still money to be made, and when they don't have another title kind of supporting the wait. We're expecting Planet Coaster 2 to be announced sometime this year because we're a slave to rumours and guesswork, basically. And I'm really excited about Planet Coaster 2, I think that's going to be great if it exists. But given Frontier's whole business model is really predicated around releasing creative management sims and then supporting them for years later with DLC, that is very much their ethos, it's in all their reports. Are they really going to have only one title receiving post-launch updates, assuming Evolution 2 and Planet Zoo begin to wind down on DLC? That really doesn't seem likely to me. This is all slightly optimistic speculation, but if I had to guess, I think we'll see more than just one pack for Evolution 2. I think Planet Zoo will also get more support than we're expecting as well. I've no doubt they're pulling people away to work on whatever CMS game they're releasing in 2025, and of course Planet Coaster 2, if it exists. But I think given recent financial performance and some assumedly slightly nervous shareholders, they'll keep small teams back working on these titles for a while to come yet. Of course, I don't know anything, and I could look like an idiot very soon, but if you don't speculate, you don't accumulate, as they say. It's worth noting, I'm going to go off script here very slightly, there was about a year between Return to Jurassic Park and Jurassic World Evolution 2, so if they planned to release the next game late next year, it wouldn't be wholly surprising if support stopped soon, or likewise for Planet Zoo if we ended up getting a Planet Zoo 2, although I feel that would be further away. If they are releasing a CMS game next year, I suspect it'll be Planet something we're not expecting, but who knows. It's also worth noting there are two ways this could go. Let's assume they've got a small team held back working on Evolution 2. Either we could get small updates like this one on a fairly regular routine, say 3 to 4 months, or it could end up going more on the Evolution 1 route where we end up waiting 6 months for an update and a DLC, but maybe it'll be more regularly sized. In an ideal world, every 3 months we get a nice big free update and a nice big DLC. That'd be fantastic, but I suspect that will no longer be the case. I suspect it's one of the two going forward, but we'll see. Before we go, I'm going to throw out some thoughts in general on the DLC itself, because I keep promising to do so. Now, it's a difficult position because I do suspect redundancies had an effect, and that's just not really their fault at all, And there's still signs of the love that Frontier pour into these creatures, the new cross-species social animations in particular, but I also can't pretend I'm not a little disappointed. Less so in the pack, they're rarely the highlight for me, but it's that lack of free update. These have always been the most exciting parts of DLCs for me, and they're the things that really give the game its longevity as well. New dinosaurs are great, but we've got lots of dinosaurs already. And as glad as I am to have the Spinoraptor back and to have that beautiful new Ankylodocus, etc., I really would have preferred a general game update rather than a dinosaur pack, I think. At the end of the day, whether a pack is worth it, inverted commas, is a very personal thing, and I see too much barbing from either side as to the other's choices. It is totally legitimate to be excited to see the hybrids again, love the new animations and the look skins, and to buy the pack and be perfectly happy with that. It is also legitimate to feel that reusing 2 dinosaurs we've already paid for is a little bit cheap, and that the lack of free update means you can't really justify giving that support this time around. Me, I would buy it because I create content and I see it all through that lens. But it's also the worst dinosaur pack we've had in Evolution 2 in my opinion. I don't think it's even particularly close. And I suspect, in turn, this will be the worst selling DLC they have by some margin, and I hope they don't see that as a sign that people aren't interested in the game, just that we need more from the updates, and that inevitably a hybrid pack is a little bit niche, just implicitly. What do you think? What does the low amount of content in the DLC, the lack of free update in particular, signify to you? Was it just a perfect storm of unfortunate circumstances, or is it a herald of doom for the future of Evolution 2? Sound off down below. Thank you for joining me, cheers much love as always, bye bye.
Bye.